All right, my friends. We just pressed the Let's Go Live button. You know what that means. It's a beautiful Monday. Sometimes there are some cobwebs in those tubes all across the fruited plain of the interwebs. But it looks like things have connected right out of the gates on this Monday, which is tremendous news because we've got business to attend to, and that means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about the case in Florida and a nice big victory from Trump. This one comes on the heels of the Supreme Court case on the decision on immunity that we unpacked a lot last week. We know that there was going to be a lot of fallout and trickle-down consequences, ramifications from the Supreme Court coming out and saying Trump has immunity as the president, okay? There is some absolute immunity for official acts. There's some types of immunity that deserve the presumption of immunity, some types of acts that deserve that. And there's also some acts that don't have any immunity at all. Those are clearly non-official personal acts. And so we've been watching to see how all of this will trickle down to the various courts, and Trump submitted his position there in Florida. So we're going to look at the classified documents case and see what has been filed because Trump's defense submitted an order there, and Judge Cannon has already partially granted this. So remember, what we're going to be having and seeing in a lot of these cases is an evidentiary hearing. We know we're going back down to Judge Chutkan's courtroom for that ordeal. But what about these other cases? What about Alvin Bragg's case? What about the classified documents case? What about Big Fanny's case there in Georgia? So we're seeing some of the spillover, and we're going to go through the filings today. We also saw that Kamala is now out and about. She was saying, oh no, if Trump wins, they're going to weaponize the DOJ against all of our opponents. Oh no, our country is going to be in dire straits if we start prosecuting our political enemies. And so we'll listen to that. And then Rubio, who's on the short list for Trump's VP slot, it's Rubio. He is going to explain a very obvious point. Who has Trump prosecuted? Anybody? No. The answer was no. No high-profile Democrats got prosecuted under the Trump administration. Maybe they should have. So all of that coming up in our first segment. Then in segment number 2, last week, we read through Justice Thomas's concurrence, and he was agreeing with the immunity decision last week, but he also wrote a bit more about Jack Smith's illegal appointment and why he is not lawfully in his position stealing taxpayer money through illegal appropriations and illegally appointed outright by Merrick Garland and Joe Biden. And so we'll go through what Trump's people said in the classified documents case, reminding Judge Cannon about Clarence Thomas's concurring opinion. And we'll also check out this article. I think this was from the Wall Street Journal, something. And it was from one of the people who actually argued in favor of this decision from the Supreme Court. So we'll see what he says about it. Before we turn our attention to an unfortunate development in the classified documents case, we have another update because Judge Cannon has denied Walt Nauda's request for a dismissal. And this was in part due to Jay Bratt, the prosecutor representing the government, also known here as the Florida Oompa Loompa because reports say he's about 4'7". And he threatened Walt Nauda's attorney, said, you know, it'd be very interesting if your client didn't cooperate with us and you didn't get the judgeship position that you want there, Mr. Stanley Woodward. And there were some problems with that. And so they submitted a motion to dismiss this case based on selective and vindictive prosecution because these prosecutors are lying garbage hacks. And unfortunately, the judge says, yeah, not much I can do about this because the attack has to go against the defendant, not the defendant's attorney. And so we'll read through all of that in the second segment as the show unfolds. And then lastly, we've got a third segment, which is where we'll be talking about the media absolutely exploding on Karine Jean-Pierre, just losing their bananas on this thing. Karine was lying all last week about Joe Biden and his neurological problems. We know he met with a medical expert for a checkup. They called it an exam. They called it a bunch of different things. What we know is that they lied about it. So Karine was asked about this point blank last week and said, hey, I looked into this. She said, I checked it out. And there is no evidence. There's nothing happening here. Biden did not meet with a doctor. Okay, that was the end of it. Turns out he did, so she lied about it. Now today there's about 6 minutes of just a hissy fit from the media screaming at her and Karine screaming back at them. And they're just asking her, why are you lying to us? Honestly, like what's up? Why are you lying? You should just tell us the truth and things will be great. And she's saying, I'm not lying. I used a different phrase. I thought you were talking about like a colonoscopy. Like, no, we didn't ask about a colonoscopy. We asked about, did he see a doctor? Oh, no, I thought you were asking about proctal exams or something. So we've got that. We've also got John Kirby who says, Joe Biden's great. He's vigorous. So they're keeping on with this lie. And we now have James Comer and the Republicans seeking to dig into the doctor's knowledge and his wherewithal. So we're going to go through that because James Comer sent a letter to the doctor himself and says, what do you know about this? Apparently the doctor might be showing up in some of the Biden's criminality and some of the Biden's family affairs. So we'll see what that looks like. And then this is just a wild scene. But apparently there will be a big boy press conference over from Joe Biden. And this is wild, but both Karine and John Kirby today came out and they used this phrase, big boy press conference will be happening soon, which I don't really know why they're doing this, but they are literally humiliating him to his face. And so the only conclusion that we can come through here is this is just about humiliation, honestly, because they're calling it big boy press time for with Joe. And both of them said it. It's in their written documents. They're actually calling it by this verbatim. And so I think it's humiliating to Joe, but it's also humiliating to us because this is our country. We're supposed to have a functional president. So we'll go through all that today and more. We have 3 great segments today. This morning, we had a members only stream and it was a ton of fun. We talked about all the breaking news. That's what's fun about being a member is we have some morning streams and we talk about a bunch of other stuff before the show even comes about. But today we talked about 3 things. One, saying Joe Biden is not leaving no matter what. He released a full letter this morning. We read through it. The left also is finally admitting that Hunter Biden is running the country. So there were some stories on that. Hunter is basically in charge of everything. And also we did an update on Trump's polls because he is crushing right now. We were looking at the spread and it looks like this, basically. It's like this or like that, like this. Trump is up and to the right and Biden is down. Maybe that's how it looks like. It's like bad. So we talked about those polls and we had a lot of fun on our members only morning stream. If you don't want to become a member, I don't know why you hate me so much, but that's okay. But we'll release those clips later on once we edit them and get those published. If you do want to become a member, come and join us. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com is a great place to do that. Also on YouTube, another great place to do that. We do member streams in the mornings and Saturday shows. We'd love to have you come and join us for coverage of stuff that we can't get to here because the show is just a little short here, but we don't have enough time. But we've got robertgovea.com is our website. watcherlodge.com is also another location where you can go and check out some of the stuff that we're doing. But it's a beautiful day, my friends. Really glad that you're here. Hopefully your weekend was outstanding and your July 4th, your extended weekend was incredible. I'm working on the American flag gift, no doubt about that. We got a reminder on that this morning. I just didn't get to it. It's my bad. I know. I'm working on it. We got a bunch of good stuff to get to today, so let's get to it. Victory for Donald Trump in the classified documents case. We know that the Supreme Court came back down and said, oh yeah, there's immunity for the president, obviously, because this is America. We had 234 years of functional immunity until the Democrats came in and said that Donald Trump was the end of democracy. So now they've wrecked that precedent, but the Supreme Court corrected the record. And now this is trickling down to various courts around the country, including the classified documents case. Trump's team submitted a motion saying, Your Honor, we're going to need a stay on all of these deadlines coming up. This is the classified documents case. We've got SEPA deadlines and sealed filings and ex parte filings and all sorts of stuff. And we can't continue on with this case until we do what the Supreme Court has demanded, which is clarify whether or not Trump is immune, because some of the criminal conduct that's alleged in Jack Smith's indictment covers presidential conduct. So does that count? Does this case even belong here, or should it be dismissed? Well, Judge Cannon came out after Trump submitted that filing, and let me just show you the order first, and we'll see what led to this order. But this is what Cannon wrote. She says, all right, here's the deal. All right, we're temporarily, while all this is being parsed through, temporarily granting in part and reserving in part Trump's motion for supplemental briefing and a partial stay. So we are going to grant some of these deadlines in order to allow for full briefing on the motion, which we cannot wait to read. And consistent with Jack Smith's request for a standard response period, the court is going to stay the impending deadlines. So Trump had to make a bunch of disclosures. He had deadlines due today, July 8th. Expert disclosures. Reciprocal discovery by Trump was also due July 10th, not anymore. And special counsel's SEPA filings also due on July 10th. All those extended. Oh no. You know what that means? Is this case is less likely to go before the election again, or delays. Although special counsel may proceed with the filing should it so elect. Now, on or before July 18th, Jack Smith shall respond to Trump's motion and let us know what you have to say about presidential immunity. Trump's response is due by July 21st, just a short couple days after that, and the court reserves ruling on the rest of this. No other deadlines are impacted. Everything else remains the same. So, nice victory for Trump, which means that Judge Cannon is going to be considering all of this. So Trump will submit his brief, and in that, he's going to say, well, here's what the Supreme Court said. Your Honor, it's very clear. They said that there's three different things. There's non-immunity, there's partial immunity or presumptive immunity, and then there's absolute immunity. So my conduct as the president were all official acts. And so they're going to fall here in the classified documents case in the absolute or at least the presumptive immunity categories. And if it's a presumptive immunity category, we got to have an evidentiary hearing on that. So we're coming back down to your courtroom, Judge, and we're going to present evidence as to why we think it's actually absolute. And Jack can come in and explain why it's not. And when that happens, and let's say Judge Cannon, who is not Judge Chutkan, if she comes back down and says that there was, in fact, let's say something that can move forward in this case, then Trump will appeal that as well and just say that those are all official acts. So you can see this case is not going anywhere. It is now dead in the water, at least before the election happens. We're going to have a lot of coverage on this, and hopefully this case gets dismissed ultimately because Jack Smith is illegitimate, but we're not there quite yet. And so this is what Trump sent in to Judge Cannon that she is now going to be mulling over, and Jack Smith is going to respond to this as well. And you'll notice in here that there were a couple references to two attachments, two exhibits. And so let's look at those before we go into the original filing. But you'll notice this one came out from the Office of the Attorney General. It's a 3-pager. It's a memo. You see this one is signed by Merrick Garland. This came out June 24, 2024. Now here, this is curious. It says here, this is a memo this year, like 2 weeks ago, says the DOJ employees, here's a memo for all DOJ employees who are just the worst, all losers over there. Says the Attorney General, this is the memo from me, your boss. Subject, election year sensitivities. So here's what Merrick is saying to the DOJ. He says, all right, you're entrusted with authority to enforce the laws neutrally. Give me a break. And in an impartial matter. Yeah, right. They're government prosecutors, for crying out loud. Now that the election season is upon us, he says, like 2 weeks ago, and as prior election cycles, I'm issuing a memo to remind you of our policies with respect to political activities. It says we investigate a lot of this stuff. But simply put, laughable, right? Partisan politics must play no role in the decision of law enforcement officials. And we have different rules from the Justice Department manual that explains this and says, you know that you must adhere to all of these additional requirements. It's critical that we follow the Hatch Act. We're not to engage in politicking here. And please note that you cannot engage in partisan political activity while on duty. You're thinking to yourself, wait, what? That's the entire J6 division. Are you kidding me? The entire DC bureau are filled with partisan political hacks. That's the entire department, Merrick. So you see, this is what he says. Oh, hey, don't be political. It's like, well, that's their entire function, is to be a political prosecutor who's a hack. And they do a good job at it, as we've been witnessing here in this country for quite some time. So that's Exhibit A. Now, Exhibit B is almost in response to that. So Exhibit A says, don't do political hack prosecutions in the middle of an election year. Guess what? They're violating their own rules, because even the Washington Post is reporting this in Exhibit B. that the Justice Department, through a leak they got, plans to pursue the Trump cases, even past Election Day, even if he wins. And of course, Trump was indicted after he announced he was running. So they have been running this ever since. Now, Justice Department officials, this report says, plans to pursue the criminal cases against Trump, even if he wins, saying no, the department rules against charging or prosecuting a sitting president would not kick in until January. Senior law enforcement have already viewed these as operating within time constraints. Now, obviously, they don't charge sitting presidents, but they're going to plan to continue to move this. They're even going to conduct a trial, if they could, between Election Day and Inauguration Day. Now, obviously, that normally doesn't happen. Their policies say that. But then they turn around because it's just Trump, and they break all their own policies. So, like, they're not going to prosecute Joe Biden or something, or a Democrat in the middle of that window. But Trump, of course. Oh, we're not governed by the election calendar, they say. Yeah, right. So obviously, these hoaxes are imploding around them, and we see the double standards out on full display. But here's what Trump's team said in response. So with all of that background, they say, all right, listen, Judge Cannon, here's the deal. President Donald Trump respectfully submits this motion. We want to give you an update on the Supreme Court case in Trump that said that there was presidential immunity. And we'd also like a partial stay of the proceedings, but we want the gag order issue to continue pending because we want Trump and his free speech to remain. Now, until Trump's motions on presidential immunity are resolved and until the appointments and the appropriation clause issues are resolved, and these are the two issues that say Jack Smith is illegal, they say we want to have this in place so we can resolve all this. And by the way, the other co-defendants are joining in on this. They would like this state as well. So here's why they want it. Trump's defense says, a partial stay that pauses the Classified Information Procedures Act and other litigation is warranted. Why? The Supreme Court. A stay would be consistent with the DOJ policies. We had a big earthquake ruling and practices that they claim that they follow, right? The DOJ says that, something happens like this, they should reevaluate. Now, Jack Smith's claims, he claims he's following the policies, but he's largely ignoring them, as we know. Now, resolution of these threshold questions, Your Honor, Judge Cannon, is necessary to minimize the adverse consequences to the institution of the presidency. The executive branch will be hurt permanently if we're allowing these unconstitutional investigations and these prosecutions to continue. So a partial stay is appropriate here. Stop Jack Smith from exploiting not only Trump, but you, Judge Cannon, by engaging in this shameful lawfare campaign. They say exigency, emergency, we need this urgency right now. Supporting a partial stay is demonstrated. We know that this is needed now. Joe Biden just came out on July 1st, okay? He said this from inside the White House, linking Jack Smith's abuse of the criminal process to Joe Biden's desperate and failing attempts to communicate with voters prior to the presidential election. Saying he's commenting on this from inside the White House. So Biden is trying to rig the election again. He's already done that. Now, these efforts are so extreme and fanatical that on July 2nd, in an apparent response to Biden's weak debate performance on June 27th, just floundering, the entire party collapsing right in front of our eyes, on their own lies, by the way. It's like you guys brought it on yourself. It's like if the Republicans could do as much damage to the Democrats as the Democrats are doing to themselves, we'd have an actual country. But the Democrats just were lying to themselves and their people for about 3.5 years, longer than that. And now it's all coming back to bite them in the booty. Now, government officials leaked to the Washington Post. This was on July 2nd. They leaked to the Washington Post the plans to continue to prosecute Trump even if he is the president-elect. That's the exhibit we read. Those leaks were a blatant violation of DOJ policy. So why are they leaking that and their practice? So they don't prosecute elected presidents. So why would they prosecute a president-elect? No apparent consequences for anybody who leaked those stories responsible for that malfeasance. That has obvious relevance to the Appointments Clause inquiries regarding the unchecked discretion and the lack of oversight enjoyed by Smith. So there's a reason why this leak is a problem. Because if we had proper oversight over Jack Smith, if he wasn't just some hoodlum that they gobbled up from the gutter of the International Criminal Court, he would be subject to some oversight of Congress and subject to oversight of his position as a U.S. attorney. But he's not. He's just some bum. They just got off the streets of Europe as he seeks to subvert the upcoming election. Now, collectively, these circumstances call for heightened caution, while the court addresses threshold issues regarding Jack Smith's lack of authority at all to drive this prosecution forward on dangerous and reckless courses that he repeatedly sought to foist upon this court. That's you, Judge Cannon. He's exploiting you. And for these reasons, we want a partial stay. They say consistent with President Trump's pending motion to dismiss based on presidential immunity that we'll talk about. The Supreme Court explained in Trump, the case that just came down last week, they said that in Trump, that presidential immunity, that it would eviscerate the immunity that we have recognized already in our country if a prosecutor could do indirectly what he cannot do directly. If he can invite the jury to examine the acts of the president, which is immune from prosecution, to nonetheless prove his liability. So while the executive branch and while the courts cannot examine the president because that would be a separation of powers problem, if the court can say, oh, Mr. President, you're not allowed to do that thing, well, then the court's kind of the president, right? The court can kind of just tell the president what to do. Oh, you're allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do this. If Congress can dictate to the president what to do, then we don't really have a president. And if we don't have a president, we have a bunch of cabinet members like Jeff Zients and Hunter Biden in jail running the country. That's also unconstitutional because we should have one person who is making a decision and running the executive branch. That's the design. So they continue, they say, thus, even when an indictment alleges only unofficial conduct, which is not obviously what happened here, prosecutors cannot use evidence of official acts. Now, then the prosecutor just says, well, I guess if I can't sit in judgment over you, how about I just charge you with a crime? And then jurors can sit in judgment over you. And we can put it in a rigged courtroom like DC. So based on this reasoning, like the trial court in the Trump case, Judge Cannon, you have to do what Chutkan did. You have to do what she did. And you must undertake the necessarily fact-bound analysis, whether it is official or unofficial. So we've got to come back down here and go through the motions on this. And so to facilitate this process, we respectfully request permission to file supplemental briefs by these following deadlines. Trump wants an opening brief as to why this stuff is in fact official, and Jack Smith can respond by August 23rd. And then Trump's reply would be by September 9th. Now, the judge did not give them that much time at all. Okay, so they were like swinging for the fences on here. How about September? Judge is like, no. How about your reply will be actually due by July 21st, all right, not September. So July 21st is a lot quicker response from Judge Cannon than what we see in the rest of the filing. So they want September 9th. She says, sorry, you're going to July. So Trump's defense continues. They say, all right, about the partial stay. Judge Cannon, you should also stay other proceedings in this case except the gag order issue until the motions about presidential immunity and Jack Smith's illegal appointment and stolen money are resolved. We can't continue on. The partial stay should also include a pause on the SEPA litigation, which is extremely resource intensive for the defense and its staff and the security, because they have to pack everything up, go into these secure facilities, sit down, takes their whole day up, and it's responsible for making the courthouse and relevant facilities secure. And we have a classified information security. It's a ton of time. And so because the court's ruling on presidential immunity issues will frame SEPA, like if Trump is immune, that's it. That's the case. We don't have to debate about the issues, about the classified documents at all. It's just in. Okay, it's just done. So as to presidential immunity, they say, we should wait. And we don't need to do all of this work until we can get clarity on this. If there's immunity, we're done. We don't need to talk about documents, so don't make us go through the documents until we settle this. Now, as to presidential immunity, Trump's defense continues. They say, all right, look, Chief Justice Roberts, the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, he went through his analysis and he reasoned, he said, questions about the president may be held liable for particular actions consistent with the separation of powers, but they must be addressed at the outset of a proceeding, early in the case. immunity is meaningless if you only get it after the trial. So what, you have to suffer through all the pain and the process of the trial and the pre-litigation and all this, and you only get it at the end? No, it precludes you from having to go through it at all. That's immunity. He expressed concern, Judge Roberts, that courts in D.C. had rendered their decisions on a highly expedited basis, meaning they rushed it through because they had an election to beat. And he called it an unprecedented case. They didn't care. They were on a mission. Now, the concerns that we noted at the outset, the expedition of this case, the lack of factual analysis by the lower courts, the absence of any pertinent briefing by the parties, is all crazy, said the court. In this equally unprecedented case, right, this was the court referring to the J6 case with Judge Tanya Chutkan, but they say here it's the same thing. The presidential immunity questions implicate important presidential powers that were discussed in the Trump case. It brings up foreign relation responsibilities. It talks about meeting with foreign leaders. It talks about overseeing international diplomacy and intelligence gathering, managing matters related to terrorism, and the responsibility for many departments and other agencies within the executive branch, all official stuff. And so we want to talk about it. And that's our intention, Your Honor. And similarly, look, regarding the appointments clause, which is Jack Smith's illegality, including the principal officer issue, Judge Thomas also responded to this. He said in his concurrence, he said, if this unprecedented prosecution is to proceed, it must be conducted by someone duly authorized to do so by the American people. The lower courts should thus answer these essential questions about Jack Smith's appointment before the proceeding. And we're looking at you now, Judge Chutkan, Judge Cannon. This is the Florida case. Says you should be thinking about what Judge Clarence Thomas told you to do. Lower courts, that's you, Cannon, should take a look at this. Maybe she will. But before this consequential prosecution proceeds, says Trump's defense, we should at least provide a fulsome explanation of why that is so. Why is Jack Smith even allowed to be here? So Trump's defense tells Judge Cannon, they say, Your Honor, a partial stay, a stopping of everything that's happening, pending resolution of these constitutional questions, would be consistent with the Justice Department's own manual. Okay, they wrote about this. It's called election interference. There's a prohibition that we read in Addendum Exhibit A, which Jack's office is falsely purporting to follow. Now, as the court is aware, the Justice Department's own manual, Section 9-85.500, it literally prohibits federal prosecutors and agents from selecting the timing of any action for the purpose of affecting any election. Clearly, that's happened here. On the list of Jack's misrepresentations to the court, in this case, is the ludicrous claim at the March 1st hearing that this does not apply to cases that have already been charged. Okay, so oh no, we charged it in time. So we got it in. We got it like the buzzer went off, but we got it in. And so now we can just prosecute him and do whatever we want till the end of the election. They say that is so insane, Your Honor. The falsity of that assertion is plain from the reference to, quote, any action in the Justice Department rule. It says here, any action, not just the commencement of a criminal case, any action. Not commencement of an indictment. The Attorney General made this clear, by the way, also in a June 24th memo about election year sensitivities. He said that the policy is actively violating, while allegedly under a supervision. He described it. They're actively violating this, but here's what Merrick Garland put in his little memo to the rest of his employees, automatons. He says, okay, listen, okay, hey, you NPC prosecutors at the DOJ, says law enforcement officers and prosecutors may never select the timing of public statements, attributed or not, which Jack Smith did, investigative steps, which Jack Smith did, criminal charges, we got 4 of those, and any other action in any other matter for the purpose of affecting any election. It sounds like it's a pretty broad prohibition. Or for the purpose of giving an advantage to Joe Biden. Now, such a purpose or the appearances is inconsistent with the department's principles, if they have any. So obviously they're violating all of that. And they just say, no, but we got it in. Like the bell didn't ring yet. Okay, we got it in already. So Jack Smith's misrepresentation of their own justice manual, Judge Cannon, is showing their ongoing disregard. They have no consequences to violating their own manual. Now, this is relevant to your consideration, Judge. You should ask yourself, if he declares that he's a principal officer under the Appointments Clause because he does not have a functional superior at the DOJ, you should consider this is that, okay? No one is looking over this dude. He's not under the supervision of of Merrick Garland. He's running around unchecked and he's abusing his discretion. You can see this. He's violating his own manual. So when they come out, Your Honor, and they say, no, he doesn't need to be appointed and he doesn't need to be approved by the Senate, you can just point to this. No one is in control of Jack Smith. He's an out-and-out deranged thug. The Attorney General's recent guidance regarding the Justice Manual also demonstrates that no prejudice would result from our stay because Jack Smith should not even be taking any action right now. And he shouldn't be doing things that create the appearance of interference with the election, which is already happening. And as we've been saying since the indictments came down, it's all election interference, has been since day one. Such a stay, says Trump's defense, would also be consistent with the DOJ's separate unwritten 60-day rule. According to the DOJ's Office of the Inspector General, several department officials describe the general principle of avoiding interference in elections, unless it's Trump, rather than a specific time period before an election where overt investigative steps are prohibited. And they use this all to protect Hunter Biden. So they invoke that rule when it was protecting their team, but then they dump all over that rule when they want to prosecute the opposing team. Now, Raymond Holzer, who's now working for Jack Smith, told the DOJ that there's a general admonition that politics should play no role in our investigative decisions. Then he went and worked for Jack, prosecuting the most rigged and political prosecution in American history, and that taking investigative steps to impact an election is inconsistent with our principles. Now, it's another one of their practices that they claim to owe fealty. They say that they're following those things. But that's not true at all. In fact, in the DOJ's Office of Inspector General's 2018 report that detailed statements from several former high-ranking DOJ officials, Jack Smith is ignoring this. James Comey, loser FBI former, says, we avoid taking any action in the run-up to an election if we can avoid it. See that? Any action. So like trials, motions, anything. Loretta Lynch said this. In general, the practice has been not to take actions that might have an impact on an election, even if it's not an election case or something like that. Like we just don't do it. And Sally Yates said this, and they were saying a lot of this to just cover up for the Democrats. Okay, James Comey did it. He said that to protect Hillary. Loretta Lynch said that to protect the Obama people. Sally Yates says, to me, if there were 90 days off and you think it has significant chance of impacting an election, unless there's a reason you need to take that action now, you don't do it. So 3 for 3, they all said, no, pretty bad idea to do this. But Joe Biden didn't care. Merrick Garland doesn't care. Jack Smith doesn't care. This is their only opportunity to win. They said President Biden's comments following the Trump decision from the Supreme Court on immunity confirmed the ongoing violation of DOJ policy and practice arising from Jack Smith's effort to rush this case, and the similarly flawed, politically motivated Trump case in D.C. to trial. Referring to Jack Smith's prosecution in D.C., so Biden comes out and comments on it, he said that the president came out with his little bumbling speech. He said the American people deserve to have an answer in the courts before the upcoming election. Joe Biden statements himself, so the executive commander-in-chief who runs the DOJ, who Merrick Garland, he whined at, and Merrick Garland then went and hired Jack Smith. He's now saying, you got to get this done before the election. So we just followed the bouncing ball. We know Joe's in charge. Now, officially. Now, the remark explicitly connected Jack's office with President Biden's misuse of the justice system to communicate with voters. He's saying, prosecute him. It's no different than Fani Willis going out there in the middle of her so-called church speech and saying, why, God? Joe Biden just is a little bit more demented. Now, a little bit, not a lot. President Biden effectively confessed to spearheading the unconstitutional, unprecedented, and unsuccessful, ultimately, lawfare campaign that he brought on Jack Smith, the DOJ, other federal agencies like the FBI and many others, and private interests backing them. They're desperately trying to prevent the American people from electing President Trump. Good sentence right there. Whew. President Biden essentially boasted about being the root cause of the prospect of an executive branch that cannibalizes itself, they said in the Trump case. But remarkably, on the day after Biden's remarks and not long after Trump's overwhelmingly debate victory, we got this quote from the Washington Post. It says, people familiar with the DOJ's internal deliberations fully embrace their role in this abomination by telling the media and Jack Smith and the DOJ plan to pursue the cases against Trump past the election. The decision to perpetrate these leaks as part of the response to Joe Biden's terrible, crushing debate defeat resolves any doubt about their willingness to politicize and prioritize politics over justice, right? So this was just a nice piece of red meat. The Democrats just got totally blown out at the debate. And so Trump's going to be prosecuted anyways. Jack Smith's indirect notification to the media and his allies that he's going to continue to prosecute Trump even after president is in blatant violation of their policy and their practice. He is falsely and implausibly alleging that Trump conspired against the right to vote and to have one's vote counted. And so Jack Smith has forecast his and the department's willingness to violate those rights on behalf of Joe Biden. So Jack is the hatchet man. Joe is the operator, the organizer. The July 2nd leak by the DOJ and Jack Smith's office violated their own rules. They may never release statements to advantage themselves or to disadvantage anyone else. And if the office continues to oppose this stay request, then they should tell you, Your Honor, where those leaks came from and explain what remedial measures have been put in place. If they say, no, it's just an accident. Well, how come? So in conclusion, Your Honor, Judge Cannon, Trump's defense says the government's recent leaks and the underlying details will require dismissal of this indictment for multiple reasons. We've already submitted these. Selective and vindictive prosecution, Jack Smith's misconduct, violation of the Fourth Amendment, due process problems, attorney-client privilege problems, and among other rights that were violated. But the purposes of this motion, however, our request is a modest one. The court should resolve these threshold issues. So let us come back down and have a hearing on presidential immunity and the appropriations clause, and then we'll address the other issues later. So let us come back, present evidence as to why Trump is immune. These are official acts. And once the judge does grant that, and I believe she will, because the Supreme Court is telling us that this is how this is going to go, then they'll tease through all of that, and we'll see where this case goes from there. Signed by Christopher Keese and Todd Blanche on behalf of Trump's defense, all submitted to Judge Eileen Cannon in the Florida classified documents case. And so as we saw, Cannon is going to now await some new filings. We're going to have Jack Smith and Trump's briefs all come in, and then Trump's reply will be due by July 21st. And of course, we'll be here continuing to cover it. But they're petrified that they're losing these cases. Their entire charade is collapsing. And could you imagine being a Democrat and investing millions of dollars into the Trump prosecutions, weaponizing the entire DOJ, the FBI, shattering 234 years of American historical precedents that has never happened before, costing the taxpayers millions, 4 different criminal charges, all being operated and orchestrated out of the White House, civil charges being brought by other lawyers who are trying to just take Trump out. And you have nothing to show for it after all of this. Your own candidate can't even talk. And so this is going to be the person you have to spread around here to try to reclaim some power. It's the most pathetic thing you've ever seen. The party's collapsing in real time. And so now they're having to drag out Kamala Harris. Oh my gosh. And she's going to come out and do some more projection, explaining that if Trump wins, we're going to see political prosecutions all across America. Interesting.
This is probably the most significant election of our lifetime. You know, we have said it every 4 years, but this here one is it. We are looking at an election that will take place in 122 days.
122.
Where on one side, you have the former president who is running to become president again, who has openly talked about his admiration of dictators and his intention to be a dictator on day one, who has openly talked about his intention to weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies.
Which is a wild statement from her, because that's been their entire strategy at this point. But let's be clear, Trump never prosecuted anybody, okay? They're the ones who did it. And here's Marco Rubio explaining that to these weird freak shows who forget their dumb refrain where they keep telling us no one's above the law, no one's above the law, no one's above the law, no political hack prosecutions. Well, Joe Biden has been lying to all of the people in the media for the last 3.5 years. They're just figuring it out. Oh, he is demented. Wow, shocking. So maybe he was also lying to you about Trump's criminality, and maybe you shouldn't just believe all of the prosecutions by the government, thinking that they're legitimate. They're not. Here is Marco Rubio on the short list for the VP slot saying Trump never prosecuted anybody. Weird person. Don't you remember anything?
Well, first of all, I'm uncomfortable with the fact now that we have a president who targets political opponents. That's what's happened under Joe Biden. Everybody, when Donald Trump was president, I can't think of a single prominent Democrat who was chased around, persecuted, prosecuted. It's funny to me to read these people and hear these people out there warning about all the horrible things they ridiculously claim Donald Trump is going to do if he becomes president again. They're the ones that have been going after their political opponents. Donald Trump has been the one that's been very clear that his vengeance is going to be by winning and making America great again, not going after his political opponents. He said that in your debate. Well,
and
first of all,
I think he should go after them if they have broken the law, not out of spite or retribution. We're not the Democrats, you nuts. Of course, we'll never be them because we actually like ourselves and like life. But of course, if they broke the law, they should be prosecuted. And they did break the law. In fact, they rigged the whole election. And so if you want to bring RICO charges or false business record charges, we got a whole list of people to whom those can be brought. And we're looking forward to Trump winning and making sure that the standard of law in America is something that perseveres through the next administration. And so we're going to be here to continue to cover this, my friends. Hopefully those prosecutions come sooner rather than later after a big fat victory in November. And so we're going to be here to continue to cover this and more litigation. Wherever you're watching this, thanks for pausing for a moment and subscribing if you haven't already done that. And thank you so much for liking this video. Also, I know it's a big ask, but if you happen to know somebody that you think might like this channel, some of the work that we're doing here, it would mean the world to us if you invited them over here so that they could see what's happening. As we know, YouTube says that we are not authoritative because we don't read their talking points. We actually read the documents. They hate that. So we'd appreciate you sharing the show. It's a great way for us to expand our work, reach more people, and hopefully win big in 2024 in November. We're going to be here to continue to cover this stuff, my friends. Thank you for joining us as we do. We'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. But we're live, so we're not done yet. So let's continue on because we've got Jack Smith now. Jack Smith's in big trouble. The Supreme Court concurring opinion from Judge Clarence Thomas, this gentleman right here, handsome as ever, says that Jack Smith is illegitimate. And although it was only a concurring opinion, so it's not binding on Jack, it's still a Supreme Court judge saying it. And now Trump's defense is notifying Judge Cannon in the Florida classified documents case where this very issue is pending about what Judge Thomas said. Just sending this in, Cannon, hello, might be a good idea to dismiss this case because Jack Smith is illegally appointed and he's stealing money through unallowed appropriations. And so we're going to go through all of the filings that just dropped. You can see President Trump submitted this as part of his supplemental authority, sending this directly to Judge Cannon in the Southern District of Florida, West Palm Beach Division. This is the classified documents case. It's a short filing. But Trump is just telling the judge, hey, Judge, we know you know about the Supreme Court case and about presidential immunity. We already read through that in a prior segment here. But we don't want to gloss over this whole appropriations and appointments thing. Saying President Trump is now here, respectfully submitting this notice, just a little notice here, about the impact of the Supreme Court case in Trump versus United States and about all of the other pending motions related to presidential immunity and appointments and appropriations. They say that the Trump Supreme Court case guts Jack Smith's position that Trump has no immunity, which was a stupid argument from day one. And it further demonstrates the politically motivated nature of their contention that the motion is frivolous. So when Trump was saying we have immunity, Jack Smith and the morons came back out and they undermined their own credibility, right? The law in many ways, it should not be blood sport. I mean, it is in many ways, but you should also not sacrifice your credibility. So every time Jack Smith came out and said, no immunity, this is frivolous, that was ridiculous. Obviously, there was immunity. Anybody who took constitutional law knows that. And in addition to that, you don't even have to take constitutional law. You just have to read a history book, for crying out loud. And in addition to that, it's not frivolous, okay? So, like, maybe you just have a bad take. You say, okay, there's no immunity. The Supreme Court would never say that. It's not clear in the Constitution. So maybe you have an educated opinion on that. But you definitely don't have an educated opinion that it's frivolous. That's ridiculous. Supreme Court obviously found it. There's a bunch of immunity. There's official, absolute, and then there's presumptive immunity. So it's not frivolous at all. But Jack Smith was just doing that for the media. And he has a higher duty of candor to the court than that. So what Trump people are saying is, that's obviously insane. So he was just talking out of his derriere to you, Judge, and you should use that as evidence that he is not honest, honorable, or have any integrity at all. So Trump's office also confirms that Jack Smith cannot rely on any official act's evidence in this case. So if he charged something in the indictment that was connected to an official act, which would have been like packing up a box when you were still the president, which Trump did. They admitted that in their indictment. When Trump moved the boxes, he had the power to do that. He was the president. They never alleged that he stole the boxes or that he didn't have official possession of those boxes. So that right there, right? Everything is official in this case. Now here, by separate motion, we seek leave and we want to submit supplemental briefing on these issues. But in addition to that, Judge Cannon, Judge Thomas's concurrence adds force to other motions that are pending here. We think Jack Smith is illegally appointed. We think he's stolen a bunch of money through inappropriate, unconstitutional appropriations. Justice Thomas cited another case where Justice Scalia wrote in a dissent something consistent to Kavanaugh's comment at oral arguments, that Morrison was one of the court's biggest mistakes. Highlighting grave separation of powers concerns, Thomas suggested that these two provisions of the U.S. Code 515 and 533 do not establish by law Jack Smith's position under the Appointments Clause. And these are the two generic statutes that Merrick Garland just says, well, if we just kind of put them together, it kind of looks like we have that power, but you don't. By extension, these statutes are not other law, okay? And they're not relevant under the appropriation analysis. And these essential questions must be addressed before proceeding. So it's a very short filing. Just a little reminder, just a little tap-tap-tappy, a little tap-tap-taparoo right on Judge Cannon's desk. Hey, just a reminder, hopefully you read the concurrence by Judge Clarence Thomas, signed by Todd Blanche and Christopher Keese. Now, we've already read through Judge Thomas's full concurring opinion. If you missed that, search that on our channel and check it out because it's quite good. You can see it's a big filing. We've read through it. Judge Thomas's concurrence is before the dissents, and so be sure to check that out if you missed it. But we also had this article come from Michael B. Mukasey, who is one of the people who was involved in this entire ordeal. He served as a U.S. Attorney General, as you can see here, from 2007 to 2009, and he was also a district judge from 88 to 2006. He was somebody who submitted the amicus brief here, and he gave us some background on this. He says, look, on July 7th, he says, Jack Smith is not a special counsel by law. This is an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal. He's failing all the tests and must be removed. There's good news and bad news for Jack. Sorry. Now, the good news is he might not have to deal with immunity. Bad news is that's because the case might be dismissed. But now, the Constitution and the Appointment Clause limits how executive offices can be created. Before the revolution, the king could do both. The king could create an office and then fill it. Insane. The Constitution says you can't do that. All right, the president can nominate and appoint them, but the Senate then confirms them, and that way you have two branches of government in there precluding the expansion of government through the executive branch. Now, while concurring in the majority, Thomas wrote separately to raise this issue. He says Jack Smith was appointed by the Attorney General, all right, not by the president, and that Mr. Smith relies not one but four statutes in his appointment filing. Justice Thomas notes that none of them refers to even creating the office of the special counsel. Two of them are generic provisions about the Attorney General, and a third talks about the duties of an attorney specifically appointed to the Attorney General by the Attorney General under the law. which means someone else already appointed, not that you have the power. This is what you can do to somebody who's been lawfully appointed. So Thomas said if Congress has not reached a consensus and they lack the power to do this, we need to have these questions answered. Now, if Congress had wished to allow the Attorney General to create this office, it would have done so. They would have already created a statute and they would have allowed it to happen. Now, they tie their case back to the Nixon case. Other cases holding that the appointment of Robert Mueller was valid. She may decide those were persuasive, but they aren't binding on her. So we don't know how she's going to decide. But regardless, Jack Smith has not passed the test yet. He's lost a bunch of cases at trial. He is not appointed. He's just a rogue, errant prosecutor, and he needs to be removed accordingly. Will Judge Cannon do it? Time will tell. But this was another interesting filing that is unfortunate. But it looks like the Florida Oompa Loompa, Jay Bratt, clocking in at 4'7", says that this is a request by Walt Nauta to dismiss the case because of selective and vindictive prosecution brought by Jay Bratt. They say that this is denied, unfortunately. So Walt Nauta brought this in. Judge Cannon says, sorry, you can't get rid of Jack Smith. You must show that the prosecution was targeted against you, and neither one of these prongs was officially satisfied. But there is this section here that talks about what Jay Bratt did. So the court turns to Nauta. Remember, a long time ago, we talked about Jay Bratt sitting down with Walt Nauta's defense attorney and basically threatening him, saying, your client, Walt Nauta, who was very high up and in close contact with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, if your client, Walt Nauta, turns, maybe you'll get a good statement from us about your judicial position that you want in Washington, D.C. And if you don't have him flip, maybe that position doesn't come your way, Stanley. Well, Stanley Woodward, the attorney, was there. The date was August 24th. There was a meeting where Stanley Woodward makes the allegation that Jay Bratt attempted to coerce Mr. Nauta by dangling favorability on Woodward's judicial nomination. So the prosecutor says to the lawyer, if your client cooperates with us, you might get a promotion to a judge. Now, they called this a campaign of intimidation and harassment towards the defense attorney. Jack Smith says, no, that's not what happened at these meetings. Totally different. They were just innocent comments. Jack Smith does not dispute that those statements were made, but he disagrees from the insinuations. He says, no, that's not what he said. Now, the judge kind of scolds them. Upon review of these statements, the court notes the heightened professional obligations expected of federal prosecutors who must maintain discipline, decorum, and discretion at all times. Take a look at this case. So Cannon's kind of like, yeah, you guys are kind of pieces of work, but there's nothing I can do about it. Even if the court were to accept Nauta's version of this, and I'm not expressing a view, says the judge, it does not serve as the basis for a dismissal. Why? Because precedent for vindictive prosecution makes claim that it must be directed at the defendant, not the lawyer. Okay, so harassing a lawyer is allowed. We can take it. In sum, Nauta has not met the rigorous standard, and so because they harassed the lawyer, not the defendant, Jay Bratt, the Florida Oompa Loompa, can stay on. This order shall not be construed as commenting on the merits of Trump's motion to dismiss, which she'll deal with separately, done and ordered by Judge Eileen Cannon. So the motion to dismiss based on vindictive prosecution does not stand, or is not granted. Now, the judge says, the court takes no position on what transpired, nor does the court infer misconduct on the part of prosecutors, nor do we doubt Mr. Woodward. The court understands that Jack Smith's office, at Mr. Bratt's request, voluntarily contacted the Office of Professional Responsibility to make a self-referral on the matter before the special counsel's representation, so Jay Bratt told on himself. OPR is holding the referral in abeyance pending completion, but because the referred matter is at this point collateral to the proceeding, she's just kicking it off to some other entity to deal with it. So Jay Bratt gets away with it. He's now threatening a defense attorney. We don't want you. You certainly don't want your judgeship to go away, do you? Why don't you just get your client to cooperate with us and just flip on Trump? Scumbag prosecutors. Scum! And they get away with it again. Now, we're going to be here to continue to cover them and how scummy they are. And we hope that you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing, my friends. And we'll see you back here on the next one. All right, we got one final segment on the day. And this one is Karine. The media explodes at Karine Jean-Pierre for her lies over Biden's neurological problems. And now Congress wants to speak with the doctor as well. So James Comer and others sent this letter saying, hey, why don't you come down and have a sit-down transcribed interview with us so that we can ask you about Joe Biden's dementia. But before we get into this explosion that took place in the White House press briefing room today, let's remind ourselves about the lie, because boy, was it a whopper. You remember after the debate, there was a lot of conversation about whether Karine and whether Joe had him see a doctor. And turns out that there was a bunch of back and forth on this. So Karine said that there absolutely unequivocally was not a doctor's meeting after the debate. Here is the exchange. This came over from MJ Lee, CNN senior White House correspondent. She says the White House spokesperson, Andrew Bates, confirms, so she called, confirms Biden was examined by his doctor in the days following last week's debate. They wanted to check on his cold, see how he's doing. So she asked Karine, this was last week, yesterday, if Biden had gotten a medical exam. She said no specifically. She was busted on this because Andrew Bates confirmed right after the fact that he did. Now, the media this week, they just laced into her. How dare you lie to us? What happened here? And she's going to respond to this in a moment, but here's the background.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. I know you got a lot of questions about this issue yesterday. Sure. Has the president had any medical exams since his last annual physical in February?
And we were able to talk to his doctor about that, and that is a no.
He hasn't had any kind of medical exam?
No.
I just wanted to clarify.
That is a no.
And we were able to talk to his doctor about that, and that is a no.
He hasn't had any kind of medical exam?
No.
He hasn't had any kind of medical exam? Any kind. You heard her say that 3 times. I just played it. Any kind? No. No kind of any kind of medical exams at all. Well, it turns out he did, and she confirmed that. She called the doctor. Eli Stokel's also pointed this one out. Says when asked by a governor whether POTUS asked how he's feeling, he says, I'm fine. I just got a checkup too, and I'm fine. 3 people familiar with knowledge of the meeting said Joe Biden talked to a doctor. Now, he had a brief exam days after the debate because of his cold. So Karine just flat out lied through her teeth about that. We also know that there was a Parkinson's expert that has visited the White House about 8 times over the last 8 months. Why would that be if the president didn't have Parkinson's? The White House said President Biden had met with the neurologist over 3 times in more than 3 years in office, but not true. But it would not say whether the visiting expert was consulting with the president's physician about his health. So this dude just keeps coming in. An expert on Parkinson's from Walter Reed Military visited the White House 8 times in 8 months from last summer through the spring. Oh no. Including at least once for a meeting with Joe Biden's physician that Congress wants to talk to now, according to official logs. The guy's name is Dr. Kevin Kennard. He's a neurologist who specializes in movement disorders. The logs, which were released by the White House, show visits from July 23 to March of this year. More recent visits, if any, would not be released until they have to. Now, it's unclear whether Dr. Kennard was at the White House to talk with Joe or other people. He says that he's been supporting the White House medical unit on his LinkedIn page for more than 12 years. And his biography, okay, so this is some actual journalism, right? They went and looked this dude up. Okay, so what does he say about it? He says that he was a neurology consultant to the White House medical unit and the physician to the president from 2012 to 2022, which is when Obama was in charge. So they show when Biden was vice president, Dr. Kennard made at least 10 visits plus a family tour when he was vice president. So maybe he's just there for other policy reasons. Now, he did not respond to requests for comments. The White House would not comment on the purpose of this. A wide variety of specialists come to our office all the time. We have regularly visits regular visits with doctors all the time. It's the White House, man. What do you think? So here's the president and his doctor, and they released a 6-page letter. They say, Joe Biden's great. No findings at all would be consistent with Parkinson's, and so he's just doing an outstanding job. Now, Karine got asked about this, man. This is just brutal. So the media wasn't having it at all. Why did you lie to us? We asked you specifically. Did he have any medical appointments? You said no. We said any at all? You said no. So what gives, Karine?
Quick ones. There's been a lot of reporting in the last 24 hours about a Parkinson's expert who's come to visit the White House almost a dozen times over the last year or so, including at least one meeting with the president's physician. Could you state, like, very clearly, yes or no, was that expert here to participate in anything surrounding the care of the President of the United States?
So let me just say a couple of things. We have had a comprehensive, and I just want to take another step back, comprehensive physical examination. The president has had that. We've given a comprehensive report. We've shared that the past 3 years. Every year that he has had this exam, he sees a neurologist. And just to give you a quote from that, from the report most recently in February, an extremely detailed neurological exam was again reassuring in that there were no findings which would be consistent with any cerebellar or other central neurological disorder, such as a stroke, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, or ascending lateral sclerosis, end quote. So that came directly from in February in that comprehensive report that was provided by the president's doctor to me, that I share with all of you. So anyone who is watching can certainly go to our website.
The question, which was this expert's visits, was multiple visits to the White House pertaining at all to the president's care?
Well, here's the thing. I've said he has had three. He has had three physicals. In those 3 physicals, that's when he has seen a specialist, a neurological specialist. I have to be super mindful here, and this is why, and I'll explain this to you in a second. There are thousands of military personnel who come onto this White House. Many of them get the care from the White House medical unit, and so need to be super careful. There are, the medical unit hosts a wide range of specialists, from dermatologists to a neurologist, and so I cannot speak to every person because there's actually a security reasons to protect their privacy. We respect and protecting people's privacy, so do not want to share. I'm not going to share people's names from here. But the president, I can tell you, has seen a neurologist 3 times, as it's connected to a physical that he gets every year that we provide to all.
Okay, now that's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a second.
8 times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
Not what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute.
CBS bros losing it.
A little respect here, please. So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're asking me.
But
I also said to you, Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names.
We have to. Others he would have met with. You can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect.
It's public.
I understand that.
I hear you. It's right there for anyone to see.
Ed, I hear you. I cannot from here confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them.
The doctor.
We have to.
I think he's putting it on his bio that he goes and hangs out with the president.
Keep their privacy.
It is public.
It's public information.
I hear you.
And you're going to allow this to fester longer, Karine, unless the White House answers the question.
Hold on a second. There's no reason to go back and forth and be in this aggressive way.
Miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps about here.
What are you missed about? What are you missed about?
Everything he just asked about.
What do you? And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
Correctly, you didn't have to come back and clean it up.
I never answered the question.
Oh, you leave, you give us an answer, you leave, then you have to come back a couple days later and clean it up, is what he said to her, which is exactly right.
Correctly. That is
because she lied last time. She says, no, there was no doctor. I confirmed it. Any meeting at all? No, none.
It's not true. I was asked about a medical exam. I was asked about a physical. That was in the line of question that I answered. And I said, no, he did not have a medical exam. And I still stand by that. Matter of fact, the president still stands by that.
No, he doesn't. Actually, Andrew Bates just confirmed to the other CNN lady that he did talk to his doctor.
He had a verbal check-in. That is something that the president has a couple times a week. A couple times a week.
Now in regards to
a verbal check-in with your neurologist a couple times a week, a couple times with your doctor. Your doctor's like, all right, Joe, I'm going to call you every morning just to make sure you wake up. Anybody else check in with their doctor several times a week? Unless you're dying out there, in which case I pray for you and I hope you do well. Hope you're doing well. But sheesh, no, like not a normal functioning person. You're not just checking in with your doctor. And that's also news. No. I mean, he didn't check in with his doctor abnormally because he checks in with his doctor every day. You're like, come on. You're not being clever, Karine.
Dr. Kevin Kennard.
And I am telling you right now that I am not sharing confirming names from here. It is a security reasons. I am not going to do that, Ed. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me.
Why are you mad though,
I'm not
Karine?
going to confirm a name. It doesn't matter if it's even in the log. I am not going to do that from here.
Okay, is his name John? Is it Bill? Is it Harry? Is it Larry? Just start guessing names now. Let's see if we can get it.
That is not something I am going to do. What I can share with you is that the president has seen a neurologist for his physical 3 times. 3 times. And it is in the reporting that we share a comprehensive reporting. Matter of fact, it's more than what the last guy shared, and it is in line with what George W. Bush did. It's in line with what Obama did. And so it is comprehensive. It is out there. I just read a quote from it, but I am not going to divulge somebody's name or confirm someone. I'm not going to do that. That is as privacy for that person. I'm not going to do that. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me from here. I'm just not going to.
Okay, Karine, keep the stupid name to yourself, okay? But the fact is, our president's demented. We all know it. So here's John Kirby. He came out at the same press conference, and he says, Joe Biden's great. He's doing a great job. What are you guys, nuts? I love the guy. He's vigorous. He's doing backflips over my head all the time.
Questions on the fallout from the debate. Have you, in your meetings with him, ever seen him
demented
appear similarly to the way he did on debate night?
Look, I'm a spokesman. And
you're in a lot of meetings with him.
I am.
A lot of meetings.
The last thing I'm going to do is sit here and talk about every meeting I've had with the president. What I can tell you is, what I saw in that debate is not reflective of the man and the leader and the commander-in-chief that I have spent many, many hours with over the last 2.5 years in terms of the specificity of the way he probes, the questions he asks. Heck, just this morning, he was asking me questions about the situation on the European continent that I couldn't answer, and I told him I had to get back to him.
Is that because you couldn't understand what he was saying? Did you have to get the transcripts before you? No, he asked me tons of questions. I can't even answer it. Is he asking about real countries or fake countries? Why couldn't you answer it, John?
When he met with governors last week, he suggested he'd like to curtail events that begin after 8 p.m. at night, just because he'd rather focus on resting and doesn't want to have a long day. In your understanding of things, has the National Security Council ever withheld information from him he should have known late at night out of concern? He might.
You can tell Ed is just disgusted over this. He's like, I guess he wants to go to bed by 8. Okay, Ed has to finish his articles by like 10 p.m. He's got editors breathing down his neck. All the hacks at CBS are like screaming at him, get your article in. He's like, oh gosh. He's like, it's 8:30. Even Joe Biden, the president's in bed right now. He's like, it's 9 o'clock now. I have to finish my article. They don't like my headline. So he's agitated. I don't blame him.
Not be able to process it?
No.
Russia.
All right, so that's it. Sorry, Ed. Even that face. They're so sick of it, as they should be. But Congress wants to look into this. They've got some questions for this doctor who is in charge of our demented president. So Congress sent this one over to the Biden White House physician. From the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, right over to Joe Biden's doctor, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, physician to the White House. The judiciary sent this one. They said, all right, doctor, listen, here's the deal. We got to figure out what's going on in that brain of his. After a concerning debate to performance, are there IQ points still in there? Journalists have rushed to report on what has been plainly for years, which we've seen here for years. The president appears unwell. They give us all the posts. They say, Joe moves slowly, speaks softly. He's got moments where he loses his train of thought. He's confused. He's listless. Can we really do this for another 4 years? Can he even make it to election day? Heck yeah, he can, baby. Joe Biden is the best the Democrats have to offer, and he represents them perfectly. So he can absolutely make it. We support him as the Democratic nominee. Americans question Biden's ability to lead the country, and the Committee on Oversight's investigating this. Now, apparently, you wrote an assessment in February. You're a doctor, so you put this in writing. You said that President Biden is a healthy, active, robust 81-year-old male who remains fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency. Now, recently, it was reported that you have never recommended that Joe take a cognitive test. How come? So the Oversight Committee is concerned that your medical assessments, oh no, might have been influenced by your private business endeavors with the Biden crime family. So the doctor's in on the crimes as well, allegedly. Says recent evidence that was obtained by our committee shows that your and James Biden's involvement in AmeriCorps Health, you guys were stealing money together. James Biden, the president's brother, used funds from AmeriCorps to pay Joe Biden $200,000. See that right there? That's a loan repayment from James Biden over to Joseph Biden, March 1st, 200 grand. Loan repayment, right? Joe was the vice president. Now, AmeriCorps is a company that operated hospitals currently involved in bankruptcy proceedings, and we're investigating this. While serving as a principal at AmeriCorps, James Biden got payments, 400 grand, 200 grand. These were loans from a company that wired the money directly to him. James Biden also procured $600,000 in loans. Based upon his last name, Biden, he said, I could open a bunch of doors, and they sent him another 200 grand. But we did an interview with James Biden. This is Congress. And during the interview, James Biden confirmed that you, doctor, provided him counsel in connection with the work for AmeriCorps. James said the following. Question to James Biden, president's bro, says, what services did you render to AmeriCorps if you weren't getting a salary? Question. Well, I met with, for example, my brother wasn't in office at the time. Oh, he was, that was 18. Trump was in charge. He was a private citizen, and I'd gone through his, as vice president, his personal physician, Colonel Kevin O'Connor. And Kevin O'Connor, there was and there still is an outcry for a solution for PTSD. And one component in terms of filling these hospitals, I thought, that if we followed the same protocols the VA does with PTSD and alcoholism, there's a backlog at the VA, so he introduced me to a team. He. Kevin. Yes, Kevin O'Connor. I remember we had our first lunch was in Alexandria, Virginia. So these guys were like, oh, great. Perfect. So we just take a bunch of Americans, we throw them in our military, we send them to foreign wars that nobody knows why we fight. They come back all messed up with PTSD. We throw them in a dysfunctional VA. And then James Biden is just going to come and grift off of all of them. So he's going to say, I know, how about we just create a government-funded facility to treat all the PTSD people, and we'll just shove them in our facilities and we'll build a government for it. So public reporting also indicates that you joined a meeting with Jim Biden and the president of a hospital, along with Hunter. Wow. So this guy says that he showed up with Hunter and James. According to the Washington Post, 3 of your former colleagues in the White House medical unit said that Biden's debate performance suggested to them that he should undergo cognitive screening. 3 of your former colleagues. Now, after his disastrous debate performance, calls grew from medical professionals to undergo a test. But apparently, all of them were overridden by you, doctor. You continue to insist that Joe does not need testing. Now, the president is unwilling or unable to provide insight himself. In a recent interview with ABC News, Biden responded to a question about taking a cognitive test by saying, "I take a cognitive test every single day." Said, "I've already done it. Now, you've repeatedly refused most interview requests, doctor, and the committee now turns to you to provide answers about your independence because of mixed and confused messaging coming from the White House." So he said, "I've already done it." Did he take a test or not? Can he do his job or no? Amid reports that Biden has, quote, lost all independence at the White House, Karine deflected when asked whether Biden was examined by a doctor. Question to Karine was this. "Hey, Karine, after the debate, did the President Joe get examined by a doctor or did he get a neurological scan?" She said, "What? A neurological scan? Look, what I can say is that, just to take a step back, it was a bad night. We understand that it was a bad night, and the president has spoken to this, and he understands that. And so I cannot speak to anything beyond what I just shared. The president has regular annual physicals that we release through a report. We're going to continue to do that, and I don't have anything else beyond that." So was the last time he was seen by a doctor then in February? I just don't have anything beyond that, beyond the question of a neurological exam. And says, look, this is why the president goes through, medical examinations, right? And we release those medical examinations, right? We've done that the past couple of years. We're going to continue to do that. This is why we're going to go out there and continue to do interviews and talk to the American people. And Karine says at the end of the day, they got to be careful, right? Because we're in the campaign season. But the Americans, the American people will see for themselves, right? And I just want to be super, super careful. So on July 3rd then, just a few days ago, Karine was asked again whether Biden had been examined. She stated that she spoke with you and that the president has not been evaluated since February, right? Here's the question that we heard her speak earlier. Said, Karine, has the president had any medical exams since his last annual physical in February? And we were able to talk to, said Karine, to his doctor about that, and that is a no. So he hasn't had any kind of medical exam? Answer, no. Well, wrong. On a phone call with Democrat governors later that day, Biden told the governors that he was, quote, checked out by a doctor and everything was fine. The statements by the White House and the press secretary are obviously inconsistent because she's a liar. Given your connections with the Biden family, doctor, the committee now would like some clarity. And so to understand the extent of your involvement, we request that you produce all of your conversations and communications about AmeriCorps and James Biden. And specifically, make yourself available for a transcribed interview. If you have any questions about this, contact my team. We are, of course, our Congress. We have a lot of power here. So let us know when you want to meet. Sincerely, your friends, James Comer, Chairman on the Oversight and Accountability Committee. Over to the White House doctor, who obviously is on the Biden team payroll, who is just part of the same entourage. He does a little test, does a little eye exam. You're good, brain's functional, you're perfectly fine. Get out of here, you spry old man. And that's the end of it. So we know that the lie and the cover-up continues. And what's so strange about this is we know Joe Biden's capacity is shot. They know that we know it. And now I think they're just putting us through a humiliation ritual. I really don't know what else to call this because they're both of them, Kirby and Karine, are now calling him out for big boy press conferences, which is just a strange thing for them to do. It's almost like they're intentionally humiliating him and by proxy us because he's our president. But big boy anything is not good for Joe because we've already heard from Jill's, you answered every question, Joe. You ate all the carrots on your plate. Great job. Oh, gosh. And so now he's going to come out and do a big boy press conference. It's two of them. Listen to this. I don't know how else to explain this. Maybe you have a better answer.
After that, the president will hold a press conference. I guess a big boy press conference is what we're calling it, and take some questions from y'all.
This week, President Biden will speak to national labor leaders of AFL-CIO, host the NATO summit to show the unprecedented strength of our alliance, hold a press conference, a big boy press conference, according to Justin Sink from Bloomberg.
According to Justin Sink from Bloomberg, is that the person who was humiliating Joe? So Bloomberg humiliates him and says maybe he'll have a big boy press conference, like he'll pull up his friggin' Pampers out there and come out and show up. So then they both come out and humiliate him with that because he's like a child. And that is who is in charge of our country. Amazing. So Joe Biden is out now meeting with neurology doctors 8 times in 8 months. They're lying to our faces about it. Joe Biden is running again. Don't ever even consider taking him out. The doctor's covering up for all of the neurological problems. Congress has some questions, but the president's going to put this all to rest with his big boy press conference. He's going to answer all those questions. He's going to do such a good job. Yes, he is. And when he's done, he's going to get a star. And we're going to put it on his little notepad right on the refrigerator. So Joe Biden's gone. So is our country until we emerge victorious in just a few short months. We're going to continue to cover it, my friends. Thank you so much for subscribing and joining us as we do. Thanks for liking this video. Thanks for sharing our channel with a friend or family member so that they can join us as we go through this madness together. There will be a lot more to unpack. We're grateful to have you here, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here and here on the next one. All right, my friends. So that is going to be it for us on the day. We got 3 good segments. The media exploding at Karine over the Biden neurology lies. We've got Jack Smith in big trouble after the Supreme Court ruling. And we had a big win for Trump. Sounds like the Florida classified documents case is going to be stayed and going to be basically on hold pending the immunity decision, which will probably just dispose of the case. And we're pretty excited about all of that. And now it's time, my friends, to hear from you. Thank you so much for sending in these amazing comments, amazing donos. I see we've got some new supporters in the house. Really glad to see everybody. And hey, we have some great members only streams. We had a beautiful one this morning. So if you missed that and you want to become a membo and catch some extra content, this morning we talked about Biden's letter that he dropped fresh out of the oven this morning, saying he's not leaving no matter what. We read through the full letter. We also saw Hunter Biden's basically running the country now. Even people in the mainstream media are starting to admit that, saying this is a pretty big credibility problem. And Trump is just crushing in the polls. So if you want that, join us on that content for members only streams in the morning. Thanks for becoming a membo on YouTube or joining us over on Locals. The link is, of course, in the description below. Someone who just became a new membo is Joanna O'Brien. Joined us over on the tubes. Really nice to see you. Thanks for joining us, Joanna. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. We got Ike's Girl. Membo for 5 months says, OMG, get it out. I'm too hot to be pregnant. Which one? Like temperature-wise, or are you just a smoking hot? Like you're just a smoke show? It's like you're like 11 out of a 10. You're like, I'm way too good looking to be pregnant right now. Or it's just hot as heck out. Could be either one. Probably both. What's up, Lance Uppercut? Membo for 4 months, Lance. Lance Uppercut. And we had a Street Fighter meme this morning because we were talking about the polls. They look like this. The polls. Trump is going up. Biden's going down. It looks like a Hayuken from Street Fighter. Hayuken! Remember that? And then Lance Uppercut from Guile. I remember that, man. I wasn't any really good at that game, but I remember it. I remember losing. Hey, what's up? Eddie Block Films just became a supporter. Great to see you, Eddie. We all know Eddie, who testified in the Proud Boys trial and has a real good boy named Donnie. Good to see you, Eddie. Thanks for becoming a supporter, man. We'll see you in the mornings. We got this one from Reverend Mike Claudio. What's up, Mike? Thanks for becoming a supporter. We'll see you on the Membos only streams as well. And check out this morning's. We talked about some good stuff. Hey, Glocky's here. Hey, looking at this one, says alarm bells should be going off. They are basically telling illegals it's okay to vote in federal elections. Why the heck haven't the RNC filed federal lawsuits to at least put this on pause? The Republicans are going to blow this election, and it doesn't matter what the polls say. Good to see you there, Glocky. Thanks for that one. Schnookum says, I am back, you meanie. Rubio on a short list. His lifts are better all the time. I am back, you meanie. Schnookums. Schnookums. Did you ever leave? We're glad you're back. Says Rubio on a short list. His lifts are better all the time. So he's getting taller every day. So he's on a short list, but it's getting taller by the day. Bobsco, what's up? Hey, gifted one membo. Welcome aboard, Wild Bill. Came in, gifted a membo, courtesy of Bobsco. Hey, Alice Elizabeth, what's up? Says this morning, says, I just wanted to say after the stream from this morning, that the exact reason I became disenchanted with the Democratic Party, I had been MAGA blue until the Hillary primary. The DNC fixing the primaries and using the media to lie and to sway the primary to the direction they wanted instead of what the rank and file wanted is exactly what is biting them in the butt right now. I find this hilarious. It is hilarious, Alice Elizabeth. They're all freaking out. They're all crying like hysterical children. And you're thinking to yourself, what? You guys have been doing this for like 3 years. Like Joe Biden hasn't changed at all. In fact, I kind of feel badly for Joe Biden. I mean, in this small little context window. Because he's like shocked. He's like, what? I've been demented for 4 years, 5 years. You guys voted me in. My brain is not much worse than it was 4 years ago. So what's your problem? He's like, I'm fine. Like nothing's changed for him. So he's having total confusion, but the realities are different. But yeah, this morning we really played through it. The Democrats are monstrous. They scream, they lecture all of us about democracy. And then you have Disney heiresses and other princesses who are just going to throw out Joe Biden after he's gotten 14 million votes and huge swaths of the Democrats have voted for him. It's insane. But that's what they're doing. I agree completely. Alice Elizabeth says, here's the tip for that message. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's a great comment. They're just power hungry maniacs. And now they're all starting to see it. They're not standing by their man at all. Gloria B, what's up? And fortunately for us, Joe Biden is sticking in. He doesn't care. He's not dealing with those grifters. We support Joe Biden for the Democratic nominee. Hey, Gloria B, what's up? Gifted one membo. Welcome aboard. The Sentinel is coming in. And hang on a second. Just had a really strange noise over there. Let me see what that was. All right, it's not the feds. Not the feds. Not the feds. Sometimes we get some strange characters out there. And I heard a strange character out there. Not the feds, but we're good. All right, so we're back. Anyways, so we're back. So what's up, Gloria B? Thanks for sending that one in. Tony Hey Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets in the house, bringing in 10 new membos. What's up? Old drill sergeants coming in. Designed Audio's in the house. We got Mrs. Hemp, Cemetery Shop. What's up? Marie Clark, Scott the Engineer. We got Jason M, Rebecca H, Mrs. Smoot is in the house, and Kim Polly joining us as new membos thanks to Tony Hey Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. Hey, Scott the Engineer says, thanks, Tony. Membo for 1 month. Thank you, Scott the Engineer, for saying that. And we know first month's the hardest. It gets easier from there. This one came in from David Ray, 5 new membos. David, thanks for bringing in 5 new membos. Look who's coming in. Kimberly R. We got Daisy D. Debbie C. 1 crazy redheads here. And Mark B. gifted membos courtesy of David Ray. Thank you, David, for bringing in 5 new membos and for being a membo yourself. This one from Chris 1. What's up, Chris? Bringing in 5 more membos. Man, we got so many new membos. We got Liz is here. LW. The DJ N Atronic. We also have Tina F. Blackburn at 256 hertz. How many gigawatts is that? And Narsos is also in the house, courtesy of Chris 1. Thank you, Chris 1, for being a membo, bringing in some amazing new membos. Welcome aboard, our newest of friends. Cougar Tracks in the house, membo for 1 month, says, fight for what's right. Fight for what's right. Even if it is to party. What's up, B-Man says, lest anybody forget, there was a civil suit in the wings waiting on the Supreme Court. I think a former congressman and some Capitol Police. Yeah, I'm not familiar with this one. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, B-Man. Lest anybody forget, like me, as I have. What's up, Will C? Says Jack Smith has sworn to find a loophole if Cannon dismisses the case against him against Trump. She needs to preempt him for good. Yeah, if she does dismiss it, I'm sure Jack Smith will appeal it, and we'll see what that circuit court does. But yeah, it's a spicy case, and the immunity really stalls Jack out big time. What's up? Ian Mack says, with all these cases falling apart, does Trump have any realistic avenue to hit them for fees he has had to put out for his defense? Not really. No. And there's not a lot of precedent for it. If you get prosecuted by the government, they have all sorts of, it's qualified immunity. As long as they have a lawful basis and plausibility, essentially. And the courts have allowed it to all go on. So they'll say that there's enough safeguards in place that judges approve the indictments, judges held pretrial conferences. It's very hard to get money in the aftermath. Now, Trump is the president, so there could be, is likely to be president again. So there might be some other consequences that he can enact, but money, I doubt we're getting any of it back. Old drills, and we spent it. Think about all the money we spent as taxpayers on these fake prosecutions. Old drill sergeant, 9 months as a membo. That is a full baby birthed. A baby, and Tony Hay is the daddy. We have 2 new parents. Oh my gosh, old drill sergeant and Tony Hay. A new baby, the best one. Congratulations, you two. I'm so excited for you both. You're not going to get a lot of sleep these next couple months, but it's going to be worth it. Trust me, I think. Hey, what's up, Gary? Welcome aboard as our newest supporter. Glad to have you. And this one from Super Buff in the house. Chat's like, that's kind of, yeah, all right. Hey, Super Buff says, Rob, here's a 2-hour interview with Jovan about AZ state audit rigging. Please watch it and start a RICO case. Well, I'm not a prosecutor, so it's hard for me to do that. But you have standing. Take Hobbs and Mays and prosecute them. I'm not a prosecutor, unfortunately. But Jovan, shout out to, it's probably Jovan Pulitzer, right? Does great work, very sharp dude. So thank you for that heads up, Super Buff Shaft. From the Daily Noah, sounds like he did a great talk about audit in Arizona and how rigged everything is. Doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, here's where it came from, dailynoah.com. So check that out, exclusive. Jovan Pulitzer, as we suspected, explains how he caught them all in Arizona. Good stuff from Jovan, shout out. NY says, all right, to clear up some confusion, there's different diagnoses. In fact, major features of these things, I don't want to make medical diagnoses here, but the good doctor has some thoughts on it. Tony Hay Munkets is in the house. What's up, Tony Hay? Gifting 5 new membos. Welcome aboard. We got Brian D. Kansas Mama's in the house. This person's pronouns, my pronouns are I told you so. I told you so. And Glenn H. and Just John all became membos in the house. Thanks, Tony Hay, for bringing them in. We got this one from Drekensvisek. Dreknevisic says, be nice to your HVAC techs, okay? It's hot out there. Yes, yeah, gosh, it's true. I mean, the poor HVAC guys up in the ceilings on top of roofs, it's just brutal for them. It's hot out there. Be nice to all your outdoor tech folks, my friends, including your pool boys, okay? I used to have to clean pools in this weather. It's rough. But you dunk your head in the pools and you just make it work. But anyways, HVAC guys are even worse. They're in roofs, they're in like closed spaces. Have you ever been on a roof in July? I also used to install mist. So people would call us to install mist systems on their roofs. And so I'd be up there, it'd be like 120 in Arizona, up on the roofs installing misting lines. Zip, 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 zip. Good stuff. So anyways, be kind to your outdoor techs, HVAC, and the rest of them, even the pool boys. What's up, Donna G? Thanks for becoming a supporter. We'll see you on the Membos Only stream in the mornings. NY says, the president has enormous power and immunity. In turn, we need to know if he is impaired. They can't play the HIPAA card, okay? If he's impaired, that's a huge issue. People need to know. Yeah, what's up, Chubby? Says, KJP won't say the name because it's her name too. Clearly, Biden has been visited by the notorious John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. That's my name too. Hey, this one from Chubby. What's up? NY says, it is within the spirit of the 25th Amendment that the president be fully functional. Ideally, yeah, that's kind of what you want. And that if he isn't, he transfers power. A conspiracy, that secret is ripe for some lawfare. Sorry, Democrats, you gave us the license to do this. Yeah, if the people don't invoke the 25th Amendment, then they're almost impliedly confirming Joe Biden's well. That's our safety valve. So if they haven't invoked it, Joe Biden must be fine, and he should continue to be the nominee. That's all. End of story. I agree with Jill. Jill Biden has an education PhD. She isn't a physician in the state of Delaware. The use of doctor under state laws for medical doctors. If someone wants to use doctor, they must include their degree so it's not confusing. California has such a law. Dr. Phil was prosecuted for this. Well, he's not Dr. Jill, of course. We know she's a special person, just like the rest of the Bidens. Hey, John Libby. What's up, John? Thanks for saying this. Thank you for what you do, Rob. Rob, can Donald Trump, when reelected, stay elsewhere while the drug dogs and poison prevention cleaning people clean out everything? They've tried everything else to take him out. It's a good idea, yeah, says Trina Clark. Yeah, well, first of all, they're going to have to deep clean that White House. Hunter Biden's been in there. So there's all sorts of, I would imagine, STDs infesting the carpets and the draperies. And there's probably more cocaine splayed out all over the place, plus crack. I mean, it's a big deal. So yeah, they're going to have to clean that place out. And just not to mention just the bad juju. Who knows what it even smells like? And Ashley Biden's been in there dancing around. Horrible. Hey, what's up? Chris 1 says, smash that like button, baby, and share with your friends and family. Thank you for saying that, Chris. I really thank you for saying it. It's a good reminder. Thank you, everybody, for doing both of those things. Thank you for doing both of those things. And thank you, Chris. Great to see you. Hey, NY says, a subpoena would obviate any HIPAA or confidentiality concerns for this position. He cannot hide behind HIPAA. Spuds, Membo for 16-month, almost 2 full babies, says, do we have medical reports for Joe beating Trump at golf? That was hysterical. Trump was the most mad I've seen him the entire time when the golf thing came up. He's like, Afghanistan, he's like, no troops died. Trump's like, well, okay, yeah, you killed a bunch of troops, but okay, whatever. But then the golf thing came out, Trump about lost it. 5 handicap, give me a break, you friggin' liar. Hey, this old guy says, I don't know how Joe can hold a big boy press conference and continue to use the little boy stairs to get on Air Force One. Well, that's a good question, this old guy. And there's a whole series of other inquiries that I think come from this conversation. Like, do you think he's gonna cut his own chicken nuggets too, maybe? Or do you think that he's gonna open his own Capri Sun, or is somebody gonna open that for him? Those can be tricky sometimes. You don't want to puncture through both sides of that. So if you have to, like, if Joe Biden starts walking up the stairs, starts cutting his own chicken nuggets, and puts his own straw in his Capri Sun, we might be back on track. We might be. I mean, this country, we might be able to come on back. Watch out, China. You never know. Hey, what's up? Andres says, hey, thank you for the good work. Thank you, Andres. Thanks for being a member over on Rumble. Shout out to our friends on Rumble. And thanks for donating to us and supporting our work today. What a day. Hey, what's up? Orion's Fire. Hey, Orion's Fire. First message live on Locals. That is great news. Really glad to have you. Thanks for joining us, Orion's Fire. Our Locals is growing very nicely. Very nice to see some new names, new faces. And Orion, thank you for jumping into the chat. Sometimes it's a little intimidating to do that. Sometimes we sign up for stuff, we become lurkers, hide in the background. But it's great to have you jumping in and saying hello. Love that. Hope we see a lot more of you. And glad you made it over to Locals. Sheila P. is bringing in 10 new membos. Cuckoo's Cam is coming in. Thanks, Sheila. Sam, Dampe, Pi Squared is here. Jimmy Welch. We got Sub-Om Circus. We got Selly Safey in the house. We got What's Up CGI Joe saying thanks. Carrie Anthony, Littering and Teresa M. All gifted membos courtesy of Sheila P. in the house. Thank you, Sheila, for being a membo and bringing in 10 new membos. We got this one from Ella, membo for 5 months, says, did I hear big boy conference? What? Yeah, you did. From both of them. From John Kirby and from Karine. He's going to have a big boy conference. He's going to tie his own shoes and put his own diapers on. So it's just going to be just outstanding. I can't wait for it. Hey, and thanks, Ella, for being a membo for 5 months. This one from Pinochet's Helicopter Tours is over on Rumble. Says, your nerd card is revoked. Okay. Ah, dang it. The Ken Ryu Fireball was a Hadouken. Okay. The uppercut was the Shoryuken. Okay. Please report to the nearest arcade for reprogramming. Ugh! I always get those confused, man. Hadouken versus Shoryuken. Ugh! So the Ken Ryu Fireball was Hadouken and the uppercut was Shoryuken. From Ken and Ryu. Ryu was pretty solid. And the uppercut, was that from them too? They did that uppercut. The other one was Chun-Li, who was just a total babe, wasn't she? Wow, amazing. All right, what's up, Ike's girl? Hey, says I'm 61. I'm 61. But yes, hot at 110 degrees. That is hot, man. In Southwest Pacific Northwest Washington State. And hot looking for the age too. See, I knew it was both. That is hot, man. That's crazy. So it's 120, I think, in Arizona, or 118 right now. It's hot, but we're always sitting in Arizona. We're like, why do we live here? Like, why can't we get the hell out of here? It's what we tell ourselves as we sit here and roast in the seventh circle of hell during our July season. But I was looking at the maps around the rest of the country, and the rest of the country is just hot too. So it's like, all right. And yeah, and so there's nowhere to go. It's just hot everywhere. It's going to be hot. All right, it's just what it is. Thank you for that, Ike's girl. And you're hot too, it sounds like. What's up, B-Man in the house? Blessing game versus Trump. Oh, that's the name of the civil offense, the civil case. Blessing game, right? Blessing game? That's the right one. Thank you for that one. Thanks, B-Man, for flagging that. Teeny BB says, aloha, Rob and fellow watchers. Just wanted to say that I appreciate y'all. God bless you, and thank you, Rob, for all that you do. Thank you, Teeny BB. Thanks for supporting us, for being a membo. Aloha, back to you. Talking about nice weather, it's probably in Hawaii. Probably not arguing with that one. Teeny BB, thanks for being here, and thanks for that nice one. Hey, this one came in from Warrior Heart. Says, Stephen had a feed in which his guest was Judge Joe Brown. I had started watching, but the time came to head over here, so I'll finish it later. It started really well. You're talking about Stephen Gardner? Oh, man, Stephen Gardner's the man. We're going to be hanging out pretty soon. I think that I'll be able to share that with you soon enough, but we're going to be talking soon. We're going to do a stream together, Stephen Gardner and your boy here. We're excited about that, man. He's got some great guests over on his channel, so make sure you're subscribed to him at Stephen Gardner. He's doing some cool stuff, and he's a real good dude. So sounds great, Warrior Heart. Hopefully get back over there, and it's a great stream. Hey, this one came in from B Thorne. Says, already shared, but I wanted Rob to see this one. And it's a very handsome, passed out puppy. Just gone with the wind. And what are you watching there? Are you watching the stream? Hopefully watching the stream. And this little pup is enjoying this legal knowledge coming through the tubes. Thanks for that one, B Thorne. Hey, Warrior Heart says they need holy water and smudge sticks to get all that out. Just exercise the entire White House. Not a bad idea. ELZ on local says, whose job is it to invoke the 25th? The Biden family or Congress? I think it's members of the cabinet. So it's vice president plus members of the cabinet say this guy's not competent. He's got to go. Hey, Lori Voss. What's up, Lori? Welcome aboard as our newest of supporters. We will see you on the members only morning stream tomorrow. And if you missed it, make sure you catch this morning stream because it was quite good. We also have Lady Ice. Says, opens his Capri Suns. You're killing me. They're hard. They're difficult. Honestly, if Joe Biden came out and he was like popping Capri Suns, you'd be impressed, wouldn't you? Let's be real. If Joe Biden came out and there were like 5 or 6 Capri Suns set on a table, and Joe Biden had 1 minute, and he just pulled, he went like this, punk, 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 and got them all on the first stroke, we'd all be like, wow. That's a pretty good leader right there. That's pretty good. Hey, Kevlar, what's up? 29 months. Oh my gosh. 29 months as a membo, Kevlar. That's a long time. Peace, love, and justice, watchers. Peace, love, and justice. It's great. Thank you for that, Kevlar. What a great comment. All very important things. We care very much about those. Thanks for saying that. Thanks for being a membo for 29 months. That's almost 3 years and multiple babies. Too many for me to even count. I can't do multiplication past 3. So thanks for that, Kevlar, for being a membo for 29 months. What an amazing thing. And let's say hello to our friends before we wrap it up on the day. Let's say hello to our friends on X before we go over to locals for our members only debrief. Who's joining us on the X tubes? Let's see if there's anybody over there. Hey, It is. It's Fred Pedamonte. What's up, Fred? It's your 60th birthday today. How cool is that? Happy birthday, Fred. Happy 60th to you and to your puppy, Johnny. I'm sure you guys are celebrating. What's up, James Pepper? And here's one. It says, from Frank Rocco. What's up, Frank Rocco? Says, check out my January 6th case. I've already proven none of the federal judges or prosecutors have proper O's or positions. Wow, this is interesting. Okay, so another good one. Check out my J6 case. I've already shown that none of them have proper U.S. Attorney Boasberg and Howell signed illegally changed oaths of office. Interesting. You know who's also done some good work on this oath stuff is our Doc Master Elliott. Doc Master Elliott, who's also on Substack. And very curious, Frank. Thanks for saying what's up. Thanks for saying hello, my friend. Just gave you a follow on that. And we'll take a look. Got that bookmarked. Thanks for that. All right, we got this one. From Outworld Logistics, Jennifer says, sorry, didn't mean to get so close to your face, but I'm jumping through the phone and giving you a high five. Right back at you, Jennifer. Thanks for that. Outworld says, bless you for following this bitter trail of deception to the end. Ryan says, where are the apologies at? Lots of sorries. And Jim, what's up, Jim? And Via's never silent, saying, what's up? Watching you on X. Thank you, Jim, for that. Posted a video of Biden and Fetterman, total train wreck. Thanks for that, Jim. And so those are our friends on X. We'd love it if you followed us over there and followed other watchers out there so that you can find each other out there in the wild and the wilderness. Speaking of this, Woodchip Bill says, Rob, do you want to shovel snow off my driveway? We all need to count our blessings. Well, as you can tell, I was already there today. So there's not a single speck of snow on your driveway. Happy to do that for you. Thanks for the offer. This one came in from Radicy. Says, this one is towards a ring. Towards a ring. Please don't tell Alexis that you have Please don't tell Alexis have hundreds of babies. All right. We have a ring fund now? I'll take it. I'll take it. That sounds good. Thank you for that, Radicy. Hundreds? All right, if we must. Kara, what's up? Can you give us in simple terms what the 25th Amendment says about replacing Biden? He's angry, may have a stroke. Yeah, basically, it's if you have a majority of the cabinet, I forget what the details are, but if you have a majority of the presidential cabinet plus the vice president, then that's enough to remove the president. And let's just take a look at it. It's not a huge amendment. So here it is. So let's just see what it says, because it's not huge. But here it says, whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers, so Kamala would have to invoke this, of the principal officers or the executive departments, or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, which I don't know that there is other body, it's just the cabinet. If they transmit to the President pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House a written declaration that the President cannot continue to discharge his or her duties, then the Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and duties as the acting President. Okay, so Kamala gets together a bunch of the members of the cabinet of the executive departments, the officers, so like Merrick Garland, like DOJ, Education, all these people, they all come together, they say, okay, he's gone. Then when the president transmits to the president pro tem of the Senate his written declaration that no inability, so then Joe can say, no, I'm fine, he shall resume. So then it says, shall resume. Transmit within 4 days their written declaration, thereupon Congress shall decide the issue. Okay, so they remove him. He says, I'm fine. Congress assembles within 48 hours. If Congress within 21 days after the receipt of the declaration, or if Congress is not in session 21 days, if they determine by 2/3 vote of both houses that the president is unable to discharge, so kind of like the impeachment standards, and it's Congress, right? So it's both houses, that the president is unable to discharge, then the vice president shall be the acting president. Otherwise, the president shall resume the powers and the duties. So it's like a kind of an impeachment proceeding, but it's initiated by the vice president and members of the cabinet. So interesting. Yeah, and I haven't read that one in a while, so thanks for the refresher on that one. Kara Mills. This one from Sheila P. What's up? More membos, Sheila? You're just the best. You're bringing in 10 more. Merms is here. Forbidden Ruin. Sentinel's here. Matthew F. Bill Rob, what's up? Joni M. Melissa R. Unwokel joining us. Randall Wright and Subscribe Butter in the house. Courtesy of, oh gosh, courtesy of Sheila P. Sheila P. bringing in new membos. All right, I'm only going to show you this picture from my pool boy days. Normally I wouldn't do this, okay, but I mentioned cleaning pools, and Eddie Block Films went and he found a real photo of me from my pool boy cleaning days. Ordinarily I wouldn't do this because I don't like to, brag about my Greek godlike body, but this is a real photo of me from my pool cleaning days. As you can see, I pretty much look the same, but cleaning pools is hard work. You work your body out. You look good. Yeah, so it's a real photo back in the day, as you can tell. Looking pretty good. I still look just like that. What's up? Hey, one new baby in the house, Ned Franklin, bringing in at 2 babies. We got 2 babies from Ned Franklin, 18 months as a membo. Says, Florida says run, Joe. The thing. Totally agree. It's like, come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Just run. Hey, Woodchip Bill, what's up? Says, thank you so much, Rob. Thank you, Woodchip. Thanks for being a dono supporter of ours over on the locals. And NY says, Congress overnight can make a commission under the 25th Amendment to investigate and take the place of the cabinet if they feel the cabinet is not moving forward. Yeah, I guess that's right? They can make a commission, so some other body, but you have to have both Congresses pass it and then sign it into law. So it'd have to be law. So they'd have to pass it, both houses. Joe Biden would have to sign it. He's not going to sign some cabinet that's going to throw him out. But anyways, good comment from NY. And my friends, thank you so much for all the incredible and amazing donos. It's a beautiful Monday. I hope your week is off to a rockin' and rollin' start. We had a good start here on the day. We are going to wrap it up there and go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com right now to hang out and debrief a bit more. We'd love to see you come and join us. We also do member streams in the morning, Saturday shows. So if you're not a member, we'd love to have you become one. If you're on Locals or on YouTube, either way, that would be amazing. We'd love to see you there. We also have our website, robertgovea.com, where we post a bunch of stuff, and our lodge, watcherlodge.com. More work happening over there that we'll reveal soon enough. But today, we want to thank our mods and our meme smiths, our friends who keep this place nice and orderly. KB in the house. We got Just Cause. We got Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zach Nichols. Janak is in the house. Dog Digger, Economy Pilot, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, and our friend Zulu. Clipping down, modding the fort down for us. We've also got Sleepy Dog Lee, Nathan N810, Geegum Geegum, Glocky McGlock, and Elliot, our Doc Master. Keeping things nice and beautified. But before we wrap it up, I saw a couple other comments come in on Locals that will catch over on Locals since they're finally showing up over there. But my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and we hope to see you over there. But if not, well, we are going to be back here tomorrow. It's going to be an amazing Tuesday, and we cannot wait to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. See you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.